Hi again, everybody. A dead battery, always one thing to take into consideration is that the alternator did not recharge the battery. Many times we overlook that. So in this, I'll give you two schematics. In this schematic over here, we can either be dealing with fuse links, which are wires that can be melted at a temperature, a certain temperature, to prevent obviously other accessories from being over current, so to say. A protection device, or we can use a fuse type. Doesn't matter what the protection is, the theory is the same. Obviously, first we crank it to the starter over here, to the starter, takes right. Then also we go to something called over here the charging circuit. The charging circuit obviously is the alternator and its regulator and its computer inputs and outputs. Now let's say your car is dead. Well, the battery is dead. Well, what you have to think right away, is it the battery or did something cause it to get to that state? A few things, obviously, a parasitic draw, corrosion, other things. But, like I said, the alternator has to do its job and to replenish, to recharge the battery. So current flows here to the relay, to the starter. There's something else right now. To this, to help the regulator and to other things. For DC, once the crankshaft turns, the pulleys turn, the serpentine belt turns. The the compressor turns, everything turns, obviously the crankshaft, everything. You have an AC generator producing AC, then it's rectified to DC. That, when everything is said and done and this is low, then it comes back through this current from the alternator, comes back, goes to fuse 30 through this and replenishes this, the battery, and it keeps the other devices going, not the starter. We're done with that once we crank. And it keeps the other accessories going. I mean, the fuel injectors, the ignition control module, the radios, the lights, whatever needs to be done. Anyway, now let's say it failed. The alternator did not give us the current to replenish. The next time you're going to crank, guess what? Your battery's going to be dead. I go in the morning, going to work, and I start the car, and I say, okay, the battery is dead. I think I measure the voltage first thing, right? Or I have a gauge in my instrument panel to tell me, and I look and I say, wow, 10 volts, 10.6 volts, not good. Can't crank with that, right? So right away, before saying that maybe it's this and it's that, now the first thing that people do is, if they do think it's the alternator, they go in and change the alternator. Not a good idea. It could be the fuse links that have opened up. It could be a fuse that has opened up. Now, how to approach it? Now, obviously when the alternator starts going, you can get like 13.6, 14 in warm weather. In colder weather, you'll get more voltage. A temperature compensator, it's called. That's to compensate for everything that is cold. You need more current. The fuel injectors are on longer. Everything is on longer because everything is colder and it takes longer to heat up the engine. So more current and more voltage from the alternator. So regarding that point, you know what I could do? Let me go over there, go to the alternator, and let me give you the alternator here. This is almost the same concept, but here we have a fusible link over here. As you see, going to the alternator. This is the symbol for the alternator. These are computers. This is going to the regulators and everything, and this is going back to the battery. B, that's that red line, that thick red line wire going back from the alternator back to this one, to the battery to recharge it. So what can I do? I'm not sure. I think that maybe the alternator failed. It didn't do its job. And it didn't replenish the battery. And it's not the fault of the battery. What can I do? I can recharge the battery, right? Well, again, I'll go and I'll do it, right? Boom. Starts, nothing happens, right? Why? Did the alternator fail again? Is the serpentine belt turning? I'm going to go leave my lead on the battery. Now I'm going to look for 13 volts, 14 volts, right? First, you're going to start with 12, 12.3, whatever. Then you're going to go down to maybe 10.6 or 9.6 if it's weak. Then you're going to go back up to 13. It happens very quickly, but you look at the gauge. If I see 13, fine. I know this fusible link is intact, right? And chances are the alternator is good. It's the fault of the battery. If I come over here again, I crank it 12 volts. I leave my lead over here and I get 12 volts. I crank it, right? And guess what happens? I get nothing over here after that. There must be something open. How do you go about it? Well, I leave my lead over here, one lead over here at the battery. I come back to the other lead over here. So one positive here and one negative over here or whatever. Doesn't really make a difference. I'm just looking for, right now I'm looking for continuity. I want to make sure that these fusible link is okay, and I want to make sure that this big fuse over here, 120 amps, is also okay. So we have a protection device here. We have a protection device over here for the wiring. I have a protection device up here rated at 120 amps. So at one shot, I want to know if this is good. I want to know if this is good. Because right now, when I cranked, I tried to crank, but the alternator came, and the output of the alternator, I didn't get anything. Why? Well, maybe this one opened, maybe the wire, maybe this one opened. Either one. Either one will give me nothing back from the B+, from the alternator. The mistake that people make is they go to the alternator, they measure it, and say, okay, I have 13 volts here, whatever it is. Oh, probably the alternator. Nope. Now remember, you have a wire. That wire cannot afford to lose too much voltage through it. The voltage drop maybe is about 0.2 or 0.3 volts from the battery to that B coming out. You cannot afford to lose much voltage across that. But that not being our case, we don't measure anything. Remember, it's if you're able to crank it, great. You're able to probably get a voltage. What happens if I can't crank it? Well, let's say the alternator just failed me completely, and I can't even crank because the voltage on the battery is so low. I don't know it's because of the alternator, but I'm going to assume one of the variables is maybe something opened up from here and here. And didn't allow the alternator to recharge the battery. Right? That can be. So again, I can always put an ohm meter from here to here, and I want to measure some continuity. 1 ohm or close to that. Or if I get lucky and it cranks, then I can look for a voltage over here coming back at 13 volts. That means, you know what? I got the voltage from here. This fuse is good, and this fusible link is good. So basically what I'm saying is, again, to reiterate, the point of a dead battery can be caused by your alternator. But in order to know that, you have to crank it. The alternator has to give an output, correct? And you have to be able to measure that output. Well, that's easier said than done. Because if the battery is, if I'm stranded on the highway, in the middle of the highway, I can't recharge that battery. All I know is I can't start, right? And I can't start. I don't know if it is the responsibility of the battery that was bad, or a drain on the battery, or a weak battery just aged, or is it corrosion, or is it the alternator failed me? Either way, if I'm on the highway, I am stranded, right? There's not much you can do except bring those rechargeable batteries that you can recharge it. But if you're in a repair shop or wherever you are, I want to make sure that I have 13 volts here or 14 volts over here if I'm able to crank it. If not, if it cranks, if it starts and it doesn't work, and I get nothing here or very low voltage, I'm suspicious that I'm losing something through this, or through that wire, a large voltage drop, or corrosion over here. I am suspicious. So don't be fast to say alternator. This is what I'm trying to make the point of that. Like, let's say for a Honda, okay? For Honda, look over here. This goes to the, this is the battery. Oops, this is the battery, right? Starts everything, all the accessories and everything, whatever needs to be done. Then the alternator gets current right here, through this 120 amp multi-fuse, through the to the alternator. And meanwhile, the other current from the battery flows to the other accessories that need the current. But right now, I cranked it and it got discharged. The alternator takes over. It gets current going back to the battery, and current back to these appliances, and current back to these. So the alternator is taking care of the accessories, right? But let's say this opened up. That one we'll talk about a fusible link. Now let's talk about a multi-fuse. In Hondas, I can take the multi-fuse and I can measure continuity across it. I can always do that. However, I want to go to the B plus of this one. This is a black wire, right? I want to go over there, and I want to go through here and measure at the positive from here to here. I want to make sure that I'm measuring ohms. If I cannot crank it, what does that tell me? That tells me this wire is good, this wire is good, this fuse is good, and this wire is good. Because any one of these variables of these wires, any one of these fuses opening, or this wire, this thick wire over here, whatever, if it's open, will not allow the battery to be recharged. I will be stranded. The battery is low. Okay, I'll make a video on it. Hopefully, hands-on, you'll understand it better. Thanks for watching.